Hello, Packer fans, wherever you may be. It's time for another edition of the Pack Attack Cast. It's a Victory Monday. Very exciting game on Sunday against the Minnesota Vikings. And I'm feeling very enthusiastic about how the Packers have everything in front of them for the rest of the season. The NFC North is for the taking 100%, and the Packers control their own destiny there. And with the loss of the Eagles on Sunday, can't believe they were up 21 to nothing and ended up finding a way to lose the game. That's so typical for the Eagles and their arrogance, that it's good to see a situation where the door for the number one seed, there's a little bit of a crack in it. There's always the potential that we can find a way to see the number one seed. But most importantly, as always, and I've said this since training camp, the goal is to win the NFC North, and it's all right in front of us. As early as this week, the Packers have the opportunity to get back into first place in this division. We're going to talk about that as we get later into the week. But before we get into the game, let me talk really quickly about some business. We are 12,600 subs away at right now, and we'd like to get to 13,000 before the end of the Thanksgiving holiday. That's 400 subs. If we could get there and get to 13,000 before the end of the Thanksgiving holiday, I will truly have something to be thankful for on Thanksgiving. So hit that sub button if you haven't done so already. If you've already hit that sub button, hit the like button because that will help other people discover this channel. Now let's get into the game. I was scheduled to go to the game myself in person, but we had a family emergency and I actually had to travel to the other side of the country on the last minute. Didn't find out about this until late Friday night. So I was not able to make it to the game in person. Ironically, I had to watch the game on my phone in a parking lot. Long story, won't get into it. But I was very excited to see that the Packers fans were really the 12th man in this game. They were loud, they were ruckus from the beginning. There were chants of "Go Pack Go," of course. Also, I heard "Skull Go Home," which I thought was hilarious. Nice little play on the Vikings chant for Skull. So I thought that was really great. The fans were in this game from beginning to end. They were enthusiastic, and they were sending the Packers off to play the Lions in the right fashion. This is a 23-6 stomping of the Vikings, and this was the first stress-free game I've seen for the Packers since week 2. I didn't feel like this game was in jeopardy the whole game. You know, even when the Vikings got the first field goal, I said that's fine, not a big deal. The defense is playing well. I mean, the Packers gave up 2 field goals, and both of those field goals were very long field goals. And either one of those could have easily been missed. So, testimony to the defense that the Packers defense is really playing at an extremely high level. And they're going to have to take that extremely high level with them on the road when they play the Lions on a short week. As I said, this is the most complete game since week 2. The offense did what it took to win the game. Special teams actually was a positive overall. They had some miscues, but that play where they got the turnover on the Vikings on the punt in the third quarter was huge in that game, completely changed the momentum in that game. Defense was so good that the Packers could have gotten 1 touchdown and they would have won the game. That's how good the Packers defense has played. And overall, the Packers defense has not been the problem in their recent losses. It's always been the offense. So this defense is ready to win a championship. This is a championship caliber defense, and the number one reason for it is the fact that the Packers can rush with their front four. We don't have to blitz. We could get consistent pressure while keeping all of our defenders in coverage. And that is the addition of Micah Parsons that made that possible. And it's really unlocked the high quality of the rest of the defense. We have linebackers that are very good in coverage and stopping the run. We have a defensive line that is one of the best in the league at stopping the run. They're really going to be tested against Gibbs next week. Hopefully they will rise up to the challenge. Our secondary, our much maligned secondary, did a phenomenal job on Sunday. Even losing our number 2 corner, I'm sorry, Keyshawn Nixon, but Carrington Valentine is the best corner on this team. But our number 2 corner was knocked out of the game in the first quarter, and the Packers still smothered very good receivers. So our secondary is ready to play. This defense, top to bottom, is an elite defense in the NFL. And they can't get enough credit for this game. So there's a lot of talk, especially in this game. I saw it on the socials. I heard the rumbling during the broadcast. I heard a lot of other YouTubers after the game criticize Matt LaFleur for his conservative play calling. But there was reasons for this. And I'm not trying to be a Matt LaFleur apologist. If you watch my other videos, I have plenty of negative things to say about Matt LaFleur. Sometimes his play calling really makes me question what he's looking for when he calls some of the plays that he calls. But in this situation, Matt LaFleur, I have no problem with your play calling. You had Love with a separated AC joint in his non-throwing shoulder. We were advised of this right before the game, which really explains some of the things like him handing off with the other hand and doing things that were definitely out of normal for him. I'm hoping a couple days of rest, maybe he can get to more traditional handoffs. But Matt LaFleur was protecting Jordan Love's shoulder because he's got to play on short rest. We had limited weapons on offense. We also were limiting what we put on tape for the Lions. If we want to show the Lions, our most recent tape is simply, 3 yards in a cloud of dust over and over again to win the game. Let's show the Lions that. I have no problem with that. And the number one reason is Matt LaFleur 100% was trying to avoid further injuries. Running the ball up the middle is generally the safest play on offense to avoid injuries and avoid mistakes. It might not be exciting, might not be sexy, but at that point, the Packers were in firm control of the game. The defense was playing well. So if they wanted to run it a couple times and get a field goal, I had no problem with that strategy. And speaking of strategy, I want to talk really quickly about what the Giants were thinking. They had the Lions on the ropes. They had a chance to go up 6 points with 3 minutes left in the game, and they decided to go for it on 4th down instead of kicking the field goal. The Lions should have lost to the Giants. I guarantee you, Matt LaFleur would have kicked that field goal if he was the coach of the Giants and forced the Lions to score a touchdown at the end of the game. If the Giants had done that, I don't think the Lions had enough time left on the clock, given how the rest of the fourth quarter played out, to get a touchdown. So the Lions really should have lost to the Bears in overtime or even before overtime in regulation. So that tells me that the Packers should win on Thursday. If they take the intensity and high-level play that they had on Sunday and take it with them on Thursday, the Packers should win against the Lions without any problem at all. I do not understand the spread so far in this game. As of recording this, the Lions were favored by 3 points. Of course, that's home field advantage, and I do get that. But I don't think the odds makers are really looking at how close the Lions were to being 6-5 for the season. The Lions are a very gettable win this week. They have to find a way to stop Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs had a phenomenal game against the Giants. I got to give Jahmyr Gibbs credit for that. But the rest of the Lions offense, not that exciting in this game. And their defense was not playing very well at all. So I really think that this is a very gettable game for the Packers on Thursday. It's going to be on short rest, but that's the case for both teams. Both teams have significant injuries. I think the Packers are actually going to probably have fewer significant injuries at the start of the game than the Lions. The Lions have several players that are going to be out for the season or are on IR, and the Packers have some injuries that they need to work their way through between now and Thursday, but I think the Lions are probably going to be on the shorter end of the stick as far as players on the field than the Packers on Thursday. So let's talk about what to expect from the Packers this week, okay? The Packers are going to be off today, so we're not going to have a lot of information. Players are going to be coming in for treatment, but there's not going to be any significant news, I think, today. If that changes, of course, we'll go live and we'll do a stream. But I'm suspecting we're not going to have a lot of information until the Packers have what will probably be a walkthrough on Tuesday, because they want to let their players rest and they want to recuperate injuries and avoid injuries at all costs. So I think the Packers are going to do a walkthrough on Tuesday, not a standard practice. It'll simply be a walkthrough, and they'll be working on rehab and working on the things that they're going to do in this game. And I guarantee Matt LaFleur is going to have a couple wrinkles for the Lions that they haven't seen on tape either recently or ever, because Matt LaFleur is a really good play caller, and I'm sure he's got a couple things in his bag that the Lions have not seen yet. Now, the Packers are going to have their walkthrough on Tuesday, and then they're going to travel on Wednesday. So we might have information for you on Wednesday morning, and then they Wednesday morning. Then they travel on Wednesday, so we're not going to have a lot of information there. And then the game is on Thursday. So that gives the Packers 2.5 days between games for the treatment of injuries, which is likely why some players were held out of the game on Sunday. Josh Jacobs probably could have played in this game, but they want him good for Thursday. Matthew Golden, they wanted him good for Thursday. Could we have Jaden Reed on a very limited snap count on Thursday? I think that's definitely possible. I wouldn't say it's likely. I would say maybe there's a 30% chance we get Jaden Reed. More likely he'll be playing against the Bears the week after. But there's a possibility we might get a couple Jaden Reed snaps. If nothing else, it gives the Lions something else to prepare for, the possibility of Jaden Reed being in this game. So our coverage for this week, obviously we're doing this video right now. We probably won't have significant news Tuesday. We might get a simulated injury report on Tuesday, and if we do, I will report on that. But most likely, we're going to get news and notes on Friday morning. We'll have an injury report on, did I say Friday? Injury report on Wednesday afternoon, and then we're right into the game. So what we're going to do for this show is Wednesday, we should have our injury updates and keys to the game. That'll probably be in the afternoon to get the injury report from Tuesday. For Tuesday. Thursday, we'll have our pregame show right before the game. And then Thursday, we'll have our after the game, post-game show, assuming I can squeeze it in before we have our Thanksgiving festivities. So we're going to have, that is our plan for this week. Obviously, if there's some late breaking news, there's some surprises, we will hop on and do a stream for you. But right now, it is Victory Monday. We are moving on to the Lions, and I say bring those Lions on, because when the Lions team I saw play the Giants can certainly be beat by the Packers. And look at how things are set up this week, okay? The Packers control their destiny in so many ways right now that the NFC North is right in the palms of Micah Parsons' big hands, right? So we've got the game on Thursday. If they handle business and they beat the Lions, they will have a significant advantage against the Lions for the rest of the season. Not only will we have the tiebreaker, but we'll be ahead in wins and losses as well. But all the teams in the NFC North are facing a real gauntlet towards the end of the season. So having a advantage in wins and an advantage in the tiebreaker is huge if the Packers win on Thursday. Huge for the NFC North. Then on Friday, the Eagles play the Bears. And if the Eagles beat the Bears, as I expect that they will, the Packers could actually end up at the end of the week first in the division with a 1-game lead on the Lions and a 1-game lead on the Bears. And then they just have to take care of business the following week. And if they beat the Bears, then they can have a 2-game advantage over the Bears with only a few games left to play. And that would be really huge. So everything is setting up nicely for the Packers. We had a mid-season lull where things didn't go the way they were supposed to go. But the Packers are still on track. They have everything in front of them to win this division and get at least the number 3 seed in the NFC. Now, there's still the possibility they can move up to the 2 seed or even the 1 seed. It's not likely, but it's still possible. All the Packers have to do is win. Their destiny is in front of them. Their schedule, while daunting, is exactly what they need. Champions are built on struggle. They're built on beating good teams at the end of the season. And the Packers need to show whether they are a Super Bowl contender or they're not. And it all comes down to the schedule in front of them. If they win the majority of their games down the stretch, they can win the NFC North. They can possibly get the 2 or the 3 seed, maybe even the 1. It's still technically possible. You know, they're not that far back from the 1 seed if they can handle their business, win the division, and then get some quality wins along the road. But with the way the schedule's set up, they beat the Lions. They split with the Bears. They split with the Vikings, worst case, and I think they win this division. It's all lined up really well for them. If the Packers can win against the Lions on Thursday, that means the worst they could do in the division is go 3-3. If they win one of those games, they can easily go, after that, they could easily go to 4-2 or 5-1 in the division, and they could be in great shape for the playoffs. We're starting to get players back from injury. Jaden Reed is probably going to be back at least for the Bears game. A lot of nagging injuries are starting to work themselves out of this lineup. So I have every reason to believe that if the Packers want to win the NFC North, they can do it. It's all about what they do on the field. And we're going to talk more about that as we get later on into this week. As always, go Pack Go, and we'll see you for the next video either tomorrow or before tomorrow if there's late breaking news. We'll talk to you then. Have a great day.